Okay, so we're just going to change the exhaust manifold on this 4.2 liter. I was able to get the exhaust pipe off the old manifold, but a couple studs were bent and one broke off. Unfortunately, when we were going to pull the manifold out, two of these bolts broke off, so we're going to start working on these and getting these drilled out right now. When you're, if you have a cracked exhaust manifold on these engines, there is risk of the exhaust bolts breaking. So just be wary of it, be careful. And kind of working back and forth. This one broke off instantly. It hardly took any pressure. And this one broke off halfway out, so just going to work on these for a little bit, and we'll get back. Hey guys, we're back. So somebody asked me if we were going to do a follow-up video of the install of this engine, and I wasn't really sure if I was going to. We switched some stuff over. There hasn't been a lot of activity on this. These are getting to be older vehicles, I suppose. However, you know, now that I got that, I guess I will. We just actually put the engine in. Absolutely no drama. It's no different than pulling the engine out, to be honest with you. There was nothing going on. I did have to get an LED light for my trouble light. That really helps. The plastic piece those hoses are on was the hardest part of the engine install. It took about 13 minutes, and that took about 7 minutes to do the 50mm bolt up behind the cylinder head. Other than that, we've dropped it back down on the mounts. We put the engine in, then put the mounts on after. And of course, we did up those 3 bolts there. Those would be the mounts. And now we put the strut coil back, assembly back on, and start putting the front end back on. So albeit the motor mount bolt isn't tight, but the engine is sitting under its own power. The hook's not even hooked up on the exhaust there. We did use the exhaust manifold again. Okay. Along the way, I think I showed this, or I might have filmed taking the exhaust manifold off. We broke some bolts off, unfortunately. You know, had to drill them out. There's one left down there that we lost the first 3 or 4 threads on, and we got it out right down here. And a friend of mine has grabbed me a stud and a nut for that one. I think a bolt will be fine, but we're just trying to make sure that we have no issues moving forward. So we changed all that around. So if we broke the exhaust manifold or cracked it, we actually did have a spare. The front diff is reattached. Obviously, like we talked about, we did a front seal. We did a axle seal. That's what they look like. The little tabs on the end to preload, I guess. And then the seal was bad. And this was actually a GM piece. This was the part number AC Delco piece. And it was made in Brazil. Anyway, that's the seal we used. Not too much to report. Like I say, the engine went in easy. We just slid it in with no mounts up here. Did a couple bolts up on the transmission after we did the plastic piece at the back of the head. That was it. So now I'm going to get underneath and drop the cross member. Drop everything back down so I can do the top transmission bolts again. So follow along and we'll keep going here. Okay, so basically we set the engine in earlier. It's nighttime now. I stopped at supper and visited with a few friends. Okay. Then we dropped the transmission and the transfer case down again. So basically we have a jack here holding up the transfer case, and we've taken out the cross member. Okay. We wet it down. We did all the transmission bolts all the way around. All right. We put this this mount back on. Remember, 15mm bolts, and remember to slide it onto the exhaust first. Okay. Now we're just going to put the cross member back in, and that'll be it for the night. We'll just get that in, bolt it up. They're also 15mm. I know the lighting isn't good. It's pretty dark, and I don't want to put my trouble light right up here. But a couple little tips here. There's this wire loom right here. Make sure you don't catch that inside the when you're putting the mount back on. Okay. Because it kind of wants to go that way. Plus there's a little clip there that it goes on to, snaps into place and keeps it, holds it in place there. So don't forget that. And obviously the 10 bolts around the transmission, or whatever it is, 10 or 11. Again, when you drop this down, I would say that it would be about this height. You can get to every bolt. You just have to use a long extension. And keep the jack there for safety. And you can get around pretty quickly when you do it. So we'll put the cross member in tonight, then we'll start with the torque converter bolts and everything tomorrow morning. Alright. Okay, next day. So we're going to get back underneath and we're going to tighten up the cross member. We dropped it back, dropped the transfer case back onto there last night. I had to go out today and pick up 2 little vent caps. One was actually missing, and one I dropped, and it's I've never found it again, which is peculiar. It's got to be somewhere, but I don't know where it went. So we got these installed. We'll tighten up the cross member and put those dry shafts on. So our cross member's bolted in. So basically you have the 2 long bolts that go through here. They're 18mm on both sides. Nut and bolt. You got the 4 15 mils on both sides. Same as on the passenger side, except on this side we have this unit here. Okay. And if you didn't keep your bolts organized, it has 3 13mm bolts holding it in place. And they're easy to see. You just, when you undo these bolts, they're the only ones that are 13mm. Slide this out, lift it up, and it gives you access to the bolts for the cross member. So one of the things you can do, I just came up to get a socket up here, and of course my lighting's great. While I was up here, I just grabbed the 3 exhaust nuts. They're all 15mm. I pulled the exhaust pipe and put the gasket on, and I just finger tightened those nuts onto the studs real quick. The reason being is most of the stuff we're doing, the transmission bolts are all 15mm. The 8 bottom bolts for the cross member are 15mm. So we can just do a bunch of bolts up at once, right? So we'll tighten those up as we tighten everything else up. And we'll get ready to do the dry shaft bolts. They're 11mm. These are the torque converter bolts. They're a 15mm head with an Allen head in the center. Okay, we run the exhaust up. Here's a better shot of that hole with the with the square sides. So let's get our torque converter done up. So like I said, we got the exhaust, we got the vacuum caps, we got all the transmission cross member and stuff done up. So we're gonna do the torque converter right now. Okay guys, so hey, we're done underneath here. So drive shaft's on, this back support bar is on. I think we covered all this already. All the cross member bolts are in. The center cross member with the rubber isolators in. We put our exhaust mount back, and we tied this back to the wire. This wire back to the clip it had on there, so it doesn't bounce around. The exhaust is done up. Torque converter is done. All the transmission bolts. You know, the usual. We put our vacuum caps on. The dry shaft, as you can see, it's above the cross member and above the cross member. You'll either have to slide this a long ways forward up front and then pull it back into the splines, or you'll have to go back a long ways to get the front up, so you can do that. So it's a little bit of a job. Not that hard, just don't get frustrated. It's rubber plug. It's tight. So just push hard, it'll go in there. We got the exhaust done up. We have nothing left down here. I guess we'll probably start with the 4x4 actuator and the starter, the coilover, pardon me, the struts and coils that are attached, and start doing the front end. Try and get it back on the ground, and we'll start going back, and we'll start at the top again. Hey, good morning, back at it again. We're just going to start with the front suspension here. We just pulled these the strut coil up here. Remember the thread pitch changes here, so you want to push your coil strut up from the bottom to get these nuts started on there. Okay, so they're on there finger tight. We have the strut nut and bolt back into place and on finger tight, and I just pushed the axle in. Just grab it from the back here and guide it in straight and push it in, and we'll keep assembling. We're just going to tighten everything up here and get the spindle ready to go on. Okay, so we got our bottom ball joint on, we got our tie rod on, we got the top ball joint in. We'll tighten this tie rod up. I think it's 21 mil, and the bottom bolt's 24. And we'll get on to the caliper and the caliper bracket. When putting everything back together, just a quick tip for you, I tie everything up toward the back, and this caliper and this line need to be behind here. So I've taken the top ball joint back out so I can move it up front, so when I put the caliper bracket on I can bolt it up. Anyway, I've forgotten this about 3 times in the course of doing these things over the years, so I just thought I'd point that out. And just a quick tip for you guys. So this particular bottom ball joint bolt didn't want to go in too easily. It's they don't spin right in, and we want to get the spindle up far enough so we can lock it into place in the ball joint. And most of the time you can use a jack, and there's a little end right here. I just use a C-clamp. Honestly, it's easy to do. You can just put it up here and right here. It takes a little effort, a little pressure. Tighten your bolt on, you're good to go. So like I say, you use a little C-clamp. You can use a jack, but you'd have to jack right here, right? And some of the stuff can be frustrating for people. It's sometimes easier when they see somebody else or what they do. But yeah, I found a little bit of problems, so I just clamped it together and tightened the bolt up. Thought I'd share that with you. Okay, so we're back together here. So just a quick recap. We put the coil and strut in. Okay, those top bolts I believe are 15 or they're 18 millimeter. I can't remember now. So they're tightened up. We did the bottom bolt is tightened up. They're 18. Okay, we slid in the axle, the half shaft. And then we put the front spindle on. We did up the top ball joint. We did up the tie rod end. And we did up the bottom ball joint. We installed our rotor, our caliper bracket, and obviously our caliper. We then put on the brake line the right way. We actually had to take this off once and move the brake caliper on the other side. They're all done up. We've done up all of our ABS line connections and reconnected it. And we'll torque the front spindle nut or axle nut when it's on the ground. So anyway, that part of the front end is done on the passenger side. We'll start with the intake manifold, the starter, the wiring on the side of the block, and then we'll do the driver's side front suspension after that. Okay guys, so hey, we're back real quick. So just the intake manifold is on and tightened up. Okay, just wanted to point out the ground wire here, ground wire below that. Okay, I think you can see all that. Trying to give you some light. Okay, the actual ground wire here. Hold on. All right, we're back. So hey, real quick, I'm just going to show you down here. You can kind of see one ground wire in there. Make sure you got 3 small ground wires you have to hook up. You can see the one small one over here, and plus the battery cable. We just put on our heater hose. In behind our heater hose, we have the block heater. Mine was different on this. The one on this vehicle was different than the one that came on the engine, so we just had to change that. And then of course we have the rest of the stuff down here. The other two wires, small ground wires, you can see they're both right there. So remember, you got the 3 ground wires, you got the battery cable, and in behind here, that little bracket for the purge solenoid, that's the 10mm bolt. It's the only small bolt out of them. Okay, so remember that. And as for the intake manifold, much like the last time, I was able just to use a small swivel on 10mm on a little piece of a 1/4 inch extension with a 2.5 foot 3/8 extension. It actually would look kind of like that on an angle. Oops. But it was okay. We had no issues. It was actually easy to do. It only took a few minutes to tighten everything up. So right now, with the intake on, most of the wiring on, we'll weight everything above the engine here. We'll put the ECM on, wire up a couple more things, put the air conditioning compressor in. I just want to check the oil in the front diff first. And then we're going to put the front suspension back together and drop this thing back on the wheels. Kind of looking forward to that. So and we're going to clean up this green. I'm not going to send it out with the green on it. That's from the auto wrecker. I don't like it. Actually, we'll just do that on the video as well. We'll just paint over that. I'm just going to do this in case there's a warranty issue on video. It just looks terrible. Alright, time to go. Compressor's on. Okay, so we got our wiring together. Obviously, we got our intake manifold on. We talked about that. We changed our block heater. We put all our wiring looms back on. It's a little bit challenging. It's a bit of a puzzle. But it's probably best to get it all proper. That way everything fits correctly. You don't have any issues moving forward. We'll put on our brake booster hose. We have our throttle body on, our MAP sensor. We have our coil packs. We have everything. We even have the exhaust shield back on. We're just going to do the power steering. We'll finish up some of the wiring here. Remember to push your wiring into place. There's a cap that goes on top of all this as well. So we just changed, we had a new pulley on the other engine, so we changed that. So we'll reinstall the power steering and the air conditioning. And then yeah, and then we'll have the front rads and the front suspension on the driver's side left. Nothing really to tell you guys. Make sure you get your clamp on for the heater hose properly. Everything's a little tight in here. If you're going to do your exhaust shield, if you can get it into place without too many problems, like I wouldn't put this on yet. I would kind of leave everything out of the way, get the shield on, tighten up your O2 sensor, and then put the rest of the stuff on after. Don't forget the little, the bolts for this those studs are 13mm. Then you got a 10mm nut for the transmission dipstick. Don't forget about that. And we'll just keep going here, see what else we find. Okay, when you put your power steering pump on, remember just to slide it into the C opening. And you got 3 bolts. They got 13mm heads on them. You can tighten them up through the holes in the front of the pulley. That's kind of a nice thing. You're going to have one long wire. Don't forget about this wire. But down there you see the green one by the oil filter for your oil sending unit. So make sure that you hook that up. Okay. You'll have your O2 sensor hooked up. You'll have your, I believe that's an idle air motor, crank sensor, and obviously this will go to our air cleaner assembly here. So everything else should be hooked up by this point. You should have everything on there, everything clipped into place. Okay. The hoses for the power steering are very close, but they're okay. So let's get the upper rad hose and the air conditioning on. Okay, so hey, we got our Power steering on. Obviously, we talked about that earlier. We got our brackets on for the air conditioning line and the dipstick. We'll hook up the air conditioning. We'll put our lower rat hose on. Put our alternator bracket on. The air's on. So, all these bolts are 15 mil. There's 4 of them. Obviously 2 at the top, 2 at the bottom. Then you have this pulley and this bracket. They're the same. There's the 1 bolt here, and then there's 2 below it, just above the air conditioning bolts. Okay, so make sure you get all of them. Don't forget your air conditioning lines. Pardon me. Your wiring for your air conditioning. Hook that up while you have the chance. Oh, here. We can actually just plug this in. Put that down, so we have everything ready to go. So what we'll do next is we'll probably just start putting the front end together, the fan, the shroud, the air conditioning rad and such, and try and get this ready to fire up here in the next little bit. So everything up to this point is all together. So I'm just going to do this in case anybody has any questions. Nothing really too much going on here. Alright. Okay, so we have everything together, so hey, mistake. Maybe put the alternator on before you put that bracket on. A little bit easier. Other than that, don't forget all the little things. There's a little clip for the fuel line back right here. There's this 10 millimeter bolt for your to hold in the clip for the wire loom. Make sure you have everything up to this point done. We need to put the cover on for the wiring harness. That's about it. So I'm probably going to throw the battery in. Remember, we got 5 battery tray bolts. And see if it starts real quick. So bear with me. Okay, so a couple things. The battery charger apparently doesn't work on low. So we're charging the battery. This fuel pump relay was not in here, and I remembered that when I was going to start it. They told me that it was in the glove box or somewhere, so I found that and put it in. It's been charging for a bit. I'll give it a try, but it's probably not enough. At least get the fuel to go to the system. I can hear it. That's a good sign. Do that a couple times. No, we'll have to use a boost pack. We'll try it again. Okay, so while we're waiting for the battery charger or boost pack to charge up, about 4 more hours, I thought I'd put the rest of the truck together. So I'll buy a battery in the morning because it's no good. I put the clutch fan on, and you won't be able to get the shroud and the radiator and the clutch fan all in if you have the bottom lines on. I don't feel like taking them off. So I'm going to take off the clutch fan, pick up the shroud and put it in between here, and put it back together. Anyway, if you're struggling with this, it's because it won't go together easily. Anyway, that's the way I would do it. And I'll continue on. Okay, so just a quick update. We took the fan back off. We slid the shroud together. Remember, there's a hook here that goes into the top of it. I'd forgotten about that. There's holes down the bottom. It lines up into the bottom of the rad with, and then the rad is in the holes in the rubber mounts at the bottom. We're all good. So I'm just going to put the air conditioning radiator in here, and it mounts to these down here. So it's it just clips in, and then we'll do all this up. And for the record, this wasn't hard. It's just, you just got to balance everything at the same time. That's all. Okay, for anybody that's had the pleasure of doing this in the past, while we wait for the boost pack to charge up, I just remembered, you got to put this air conditioning rad in first. Then you kind of need to assemble the fan because it hooks up there. And because the cooling lines that I decided to leave on and not take off the bottom, I kind of have to put it in this way. So this is going to be tight and a little tough. But this is the way I've done them. You can't, I don't think you can actually get the AC rad back in. It won't clear the top once you put the rad in. I think I've tried this before and it doesn't work. This is just what I find, and this is how I'm going to do it. If you found the same thing, it's probably because it doesn't work. But I'm going to put it in this way and give it a shot. Okay, so earlier we tried to start this thing. I don't know if if I'm gonna actually use that. And what had happened is the battery is no good. My battery charger no longer seems to want to work, and my boost pack was, well, pretty much dead. And it took forever to charge up. So in the meantime, I've been out and about and done a couple things. I think I mentioned we put the fuel pump relay in. Everything else is done up right now except for the air conditioning and the front rads. One of the things I wanted to point out real quick, if I didn't point out already, I believe I did. You need to put the air conditioning rad in first, and then followed by these two together. If you can put it in as a whole unit, that'd be great. I'm not sure you could do it though. And then do up the fan. So, air conditioning radiator first. Then I put the rad and the fan in together because I had the cooling lines off right here, and I couldn't get the shroud on the other side of the cooling lines. That being said, when you're putting the cooling lines on, you're going to have three little notches in here. And what you're going to want to do is make sure they clip on at two ends, and the center has a lock as well. So you want to get all three of those into their respective places, and then pull the plastic cap back on and over top of them. It's just probably just a lock cap more than anything, right? So there we go. So those are back on. We'll put the bar back across here. We'll do these bolts up front and back. We'll put our radiator hoses on, and hopefully our boost pack is charged up enough to see if this will fire up and run, and hopefully it runs really well. This engine came from a wreckers, had 180,000 kilometers on it, so about 110,000 miles. They said it was good, so here's hoping. So we'll get a few more of these connections hooked up, and we'll try and start it up. Okay, so we got all of our little stuff done. We hung up our and bolted up all of our AC lines. We put on our air intake. We plugged in our sensor. We have rad hoses. Headlights, grill, and front bumper, basically. So we'll need that fluid. I just want to see if it starts. I don't know what my charger's still goofing around. I'm not sure if this is going to work or not, but let's give it a try. Sounds a little more promising. Okay guys, we had a decent little run-in with this last night. It runs good. Seems to run fine. I had an antifreeze leak at the back of the block at the back heater hose. I fixed it this morning. I bought a new battery, still in the truck, but right now what I really need to do is get this ball joint changed. I have to get this vehicle out of here today. So I'm gonna do this. I know there's lots of videos on this on YouTube, so I probably won't really include it in much, and then we'll put it back together and take it for a drive. Okay guys, well, we're at the end of this video. We're just test driving the Trailblazer. Everything's good. There's no lights. It runs well. It does everything properly. It's has decent power. So I hope you guys enjoyed following along with this video. There's not too much to see. We'll pull over and do a quick walk around here before we stop this. Okay, I just wanted to do a quick video as we wind this down. Trailblazer project, the 4.2 swap is done. As we can see here. Just going to do a quick video of a bunch of different views. Maybe help anybody that has any questions. Wasn't too hard. A little more time consuming. I think the first time you do something, it's a little bit harder than if you did it over and over again. This job does require some patience, and there's a lot of things to do up and undo. You got to get quite involved. Anyway, it runs really well. It has no check engine lights. The front hubcaps are off. I still have to torque up the rear wheels. Pardon me, the front wheels. And everything looks good. We don't have any lights or any issues. We might have a suspected steering wheel sensor angle issue. It came on a couple times when you go all the way left, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, so this is it. Running and driving. We'll just shut the hood and we'll go for a quick drive. Alright, well, we'll take a quick drive here. So the vehicle runs well, has no issues. Steering wheel is straight. It gets up to speed easily. Has decent power. Yeah, so it's I'd say the whole job is a success. So for all you guys that followed along, I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you learned something. And stay tuned and we'll have more projects on the go here coming up. Thanks.